My name is James Williams Jr. Welcome to Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Okay, so no matter what I've done, I've tried everything, and I need some serious major league help from Marvel. Because the only way I'm going to get my answers to my questions is if Marvel actually contacts me and correct this video. So as I was trying to find everything I can on the pocketbooks of certain Marvel characters that I mentioned in my reminder video, and those characters were Charles Xavier, Tony Stark, and Warren Worthington III. Well, I googled who was the richest man in the Marvel MCU. Those three guys weren't even on the list, except for they were on the list of what I got, which was the Hellfire Club. Now, I'm coming fresh off of this, so I didn't keep going in, because you think when you Google shit, Google will just give you all the answers. Yeah, Google just gave me the finger. So, let me put it to you this way. In the 80s and in the 70s, when I started reading the comics, the top dog was pretty much Tony Stark. But they never really questioned Xavier's worth, because he turned his worth into a school, and schools also get funded by governments and other things to keep them running, because you have to have an education in America. It's one of those things that's like a basic human right. It's actually a privilege. It's not actually a right, but it is a privilege. And in America, your education is more or less free. So you should be thank God for that. So in the MCU, the comic book version, before the retcons in the early 2000s or the middle 2000s, or whatever you want to call it, 2010 or 2008, whichever one did Scarlet, which totally flipped the 616, which caused me to stop reading the comic books, because somebody didn't look in the archives to know that Scarlet Witch and Vision already had twin sons way back in like 86 or 84. Somewhere it was an even number, might have been 82, but anyway, that's neither here or there. So, as we know, if you go by movie continuity, Tony Stark's one rich SOB. If you go by comic book continuity, Tony Stark's one rich SOB. Now, let me exclude people of royalty out. Alright? So, Prince Namor, out. The Shi'ar Empire, out. Because those people, they're royalty. They have infinite wealth. You know, most people who are royals never really run out of money. They have a fucking kingdom, for Christ's sake. So, therefore, they're richer than most people. So, I left Namor out for a reason. And then I went into like some of the top tiers of who I wanted to know about. And again, I found nothing. But I will tell you that from my old school comic book experience, we're going to go from the data in my head. Because the data online, either I'm not looking in the right place, or Google just doesn't fucking have it. Anyway, so I'm going to run a smooth trail in this video. And you guys can agree or disagree with me. And I'm probably going to post this on my Facebook, so it'll probably be a two-parter. I want to say that Tony Stark and Professor Xavier are running in a smooth tie. But then I also have to add that Brian Braddock, who is also rich, and Warren Worthington III, who's also rich, and Dwayne Taylor, who's also rich, and Roberto DaCosta, Sunspot, who is also rich because his father's like a millionaire or a billionaire in Brazil. At least he was at one time, back when he sent his son here before Gedrin came to get him and take him back. So you guys should see how far back I've gone. And then the Strucker twins had money. I don't know how much money. And then there is everyone at the top of the Hellfire Club, again, excluding Namor because he's a prince. And anybody who else is like of royal blood, we're excluding all of them. I'm just talking about normal paychecks and normal people who have money, who are rich in the Marvel Universe. Because, you know, Tony Stark basically funds everything Avengers. And it's not like he doesn't have the money to back it up. Now, we're going to go with Tony Stark first. Why are we going to go with Tony Stark first? Okay, so there's like 3 teams of Avengers. Alright? I don't know how it works now in 2019, but way back in 84, there was 3 teams of Avengers, because Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, not the current Captain Marvel, Carol, whatever her name is. She wasn't. She was Miss Marvel when this happened. So Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, took an elite team of Avengers that included D-Man, Hercules, the freaking knight. I don't know why I can't remember his name, but he was a knight with a sword and a flying horse, and like maybe 13 other guys, and they had a space station. So they handled shit in space. And then you had the East Coast and the West Coast Avengers. And before Thor had went back to Asgard, Thunderstrike, aka Eric Masters, not Donald Blake, who was the original Thor. Eric Masters was Thunderstrike, but before he was Thunderstrike, he was Earth Thor. He was Earth Thor until Thor decided that he was going to stay for a while. So then Eric Masters became Thunderstrike, got a new hammer from Odin, and went to the West Coast. And in the West Coast, they had Rhodey, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and War Machine at one point before Tony went back to the East Coast Avengers. But then I think they kept swapping them back and forth. You can see why I stopped reading Avengers. And Cap was in the mix most of the time. Avengers is one of those things where you kind of like disheveled on who the leader. And also who would go back and forth between the West and East Coast would be Ant-Man and the Wasp before Scott Lang became the Ant-Man. And before the guy who got it before Scott Lang, who was the complete and total pervert. And I guess a better thief because he stole it first. But anyway, that being said, Tony Stark has to be in the billionaire compartment because of the simple fact that he has to fund these guys. He has to make their weapons. He has to do all this stuff for them. And sometimes he donates some of his funds to S.H.I.E.L.D. and some of his weapons and stuff to S.H.I.E.L.D. So Tony's pretty fucking rich, you know. And sorry for swearing, but when you weigh the pros and cons, you have three teams. You have the East Coast, the West Coast, and the team in space. And Tony's providing all of their equipment. So Tony's not poor. Tony's not hurting for money. Tony will never ever hurt for money. Now, let's get off of Tony Stark and let's go to Xavier. In the second video, I will touch on the other guys. But for this part, because we're like almost at the 10-minute mark, for this part, we're going to go to Charles Xavier. Now, if you aren't up to speed on the X-Men, Xavier comes from old money. Now, his family was pretty rich before they came to America, and when they got to America, they just got richer. And Xavier comes from old money on his mom's side. Now, his mom's side, when Xavier's dad came into the picture, he also came from money. But he didn't come from old money like the mom. Now, I could be wrong, but for 616 continuity, I'm pretty close to right. Now, when Xavier's dad died, Kane Marco's dad married Xavier's mom, as hinted in one of the X-Men in the 90s cartoon, where Charles Xavier had a flashback about how him and his stepbrother, who you know as Juggernaut, had a little squabble, and Daddy told Juggernaut, younger Juggernaut, before the Tesseract or whatever the thing is, he said, "Do not mess this up for us. We need them and their money." And he kind of just married Charles Xavier's mother for the money. But when she died, he inherited everything, and because Charles was under the age of 18, the stepfather basically had control of everything and sent all of them off to all these prestigious schools and stuff like that. But once he died, everything reverted back to Charles, which by then has tripled, doubled, quadrupled, whatever. So Charles is pretty fucking rich too. So he has, I'm sorry for swearing, he has deep pockets. Which in one of the comic books, when this phrase first started coming in, Worthington Angel has said, he's like, well, it's not hard when you have deep pockets. And he was talking to Beast, and Beast looked at him and said, well, are you talking about your deep pockets, or are you talking about Professor X's deep pockets? And Forever the Businessman, Angel replies, well, why use my money when I can use the Professor's? So I have that comic somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I have it. Unless someone stole it while I was in the army or something. But I had it then. I don't know what issue it is. But it is an issue, and it might be X Factor. It might not be X-Men. But I know I have it because I only read X titles and then New Warriors and Spider-Man and stuff like that. I have some Avengers, but there was a reason why I stopped reading Avengers. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so let's talk about what Charles has. We know he has the Danger Room. And the mechanics alone in the Danger Room takes a toll when you have mutants that are just like blasting shit to death with their hands and shit. And not even talking about like Forge helping reassemble stuff. Now in the original X-Men comics, the Shi'ar Empire Lalandra helped build the Danger Room. Now if you go with the movies, they said it was Magneto. But in the comic books, way back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s era, it was the Shi'ar Empire that gave Professor Xavier the technology to build the Danger Room. Alright, now, since all that's probably been retconned, just ignore all that. But the fact of the matter is, he has a jet under a swimming pool in his house. And his mansion's shaped like a big-ass E, which is bigger than Tony's mansion, because Tony's mansion is just like, it goes up, and his mansion's also in the middle of Manhattan, where freaking, it wasn't an Avengers Tower, it was a mansion. And I think somewhere when it got retconned, it became an Avengers Tower. But back to Xavier, his mansion has always been the same. It's been destroyed multiple times, where I can't say that about the Avengers mansion, but I can say that about the X-Men mansion, because Juggernaut has had his share of running amok through all the walls there, and it's been rebuilt by the X-Men. But you gotta have insurance, you gotta have all this money to pay for all the damages and replace everything that was broken inside the house. So I'm weighing the pros and cons on Xavier and Stark, because Stark got good money, he's got old money, but he ain't got old money like Xavier has old money. And Xavier, his mansion has been destroyed from the 60s to the 90s at least maybe 7 times. But under his mansion goes so deep underground that the Morlocks came from the sewers of Manhattan to live in the bottom of the X-Men mansion, where it has damn near every room for every Morlock. They didn't really have to share. And that's before you go up a level to where the Danger Room is, and before you go up a level to where the War Room is, and before you go up a level to where you're on the first floor of the X-Men school, and then you have 2 more levels to go up. So it's like 5 or 6 levels in that house. The training hall in the Avengers didn't have all that, but they still had good battle simulators and stuff like that. But the Danger Room, on the other hand, was like damn near unlimited. But that wasn't due to Magneto and Xavier. It was due to Xavier and his future wife and love of his life, Lalandra. Now, before they did all the retconning and all the other stuff way back in the 2000s and all that stuff, the X-Men were at their pinnacle with Danger Room training. The X-Men had a lot of stories and a lot of things done in the Danger Room before Fall of the Mutants, after Fall of the Mutants, Extinction Agenda, and they were forever upgrading the training. So therefore, as I come to the end of this video, and we're at the 13-minute mark, so this one's going on Facebook, the other one's not. You have to understand that the X-Men mansion has been leveled so many times, and for Xavier to have enough money to rebuild this thing over and over, where I think the Avengers mansion has only been leveled maybe twice. I'm not real sure because I've read more X-Men than I did Avengers. It's the same thing with the Baxter building for the Fantastic Four, and we know that Reed Richards is way down on the totem pole when it comes down to money. Alright, and he generally gets some of his stuff from Tony Stark. So, and he probably gets it at a discount. But, you know, at the same time, you have Tony Stark, who basically is one of the richest men in the Marvel Universe. And you have Charles Xavier, who's also one of the richest men in the Marvel Universe. And I will tag onto that in the second video with the other ones. In fact, this may be a 3-parter. So I hope you guys enjoy your lessons of old school Marvel, not today's Marvel. Okay? Be seeing you.